So one of the first things you're going to want to do with your new site is just to set a few of the settings. Now, most of this you can just worry about later. It's not so important to do it at the beginning, but one of these items is super important that you do it right from the start. So we just go to this settings part. You'll see there's a whole lot of options under it over here. Now, hopefully this is right. You can also change the site name and stuff here, or the WordPress URL. So, it is important that you've got this right. I would recommend that for new sites, you do get it secured. So you have the HTTPS, but this is just an example site, so I haven't done that. And that's all you really need to worry about in this page. Now, writing is okay. You can just leave that for now. Reading, depending on your theme, which we will get to, you might not have a choice about this, but often you can choose whether you want to show just your latest blog posts on the front page or you want to have a static page for your home page. So a static page would just mean that you go create a page with some content and that shows up on the front page. Whereas obviously your latest posts will change, so whatever you've written about most recently will show. So by default it just shows the latest 10. So you can change that here if you want. You can show all the text in those posts or just a summary with like a link to the rest. Again, that is a bit theme dependent, so we'll talk about that more when we get to themes. Now discussion. There's a few things here you might want to change. So this default article settings is just about what happens if you write a post and you link to another site. Now, if you link to another site and that is a WordPress site, you can choose whether it will try to notify them that you link to them. So that's not such a bad thing to do, because then they might link back to you. So that's a good thing. So you might want to leave that. But another thing it shows is this link notifications from other blogs. Now this is like the same thing in reverse. So it's like it'll notify you if they link to you. Now I like to see this because I do like to see, if someone's linked to me, it's kind of interesting to know. But what I don't like is that by default it puts it as a comment on the bottom of the post. Now I think this looks really horrible because unless you know what it is, it doesn't really make sense. A lot of blogs do keep it. I think they sort of see it as proof that their article's great because people have linked to it. But they're not really thinking about the fact that unless you've built a WordPress blog, you have no idea what that means and it looks really ugly. So I'd personally, you might keep that there just so you can see if people link to you. But just make sure it's not showing up on the page. So if you're not sure, I would personally just remove it. And you also have to decide whether you let people to post comments on new articles. So if you don't want people to comment on your site, you don't want comments allowed, you need to deselect that, okay? So that's completely up to you. And then you have some other settings here about comments, whether they must fill out their name or email. So usually you would have that. I mean, usually you would keep this to the default. But you can choose to stop comments on articles after a certain amount of time. And something else is whether you get emailed every time you get a comment, and whether you have to manually approve them or if they just get approved automatically. So the default is pretty good. That's that it. You have to sort of approve it the first time someone writes a comment, but then it'll approve itself. Now you do get a lot of spam comments with WordPress, and when we get to plugins, we'll install something to try and help stop that. But it is a good idea to at least approve the first time. So I would at least keep it at this default, if not manually approve every comment, because there'll be a lot of rubbish, and you don't want like total spam rubbish to come up on your website. So yeah, that's the discussion part. Media is just what size your images will be. If you're not sure, just leave it how it is. That's fine. You might want to change it at some point. But this is the most important thing you need to do right now. So it's this permalink settings. It's in the settings area, the last one. Now, make sure you think about this for a minute and get it right, because this is the most painful thing you could have to change later. Anything to do with your URL, so how this sort of bit here with the address and how it looks, changing it later can have a big impact, because it means anyone who's linked to your post won't work anymore. When it's in social media, it won't be to the right place, and it can really affect your SEO and getting people to your site from Google. Now, my recommendation is actually just to do this post name. So if you're really not sure, just select that. That just means, you know, if you write a new post and it's called, this is my post, then the URL to it will be your domain name and then sort of this is my post here. Whereas these other ones, like by default, it has the date. Maybe you'd really want the date in there, but I think not. Sometimes, you know, you want to go and update a blog post. And the problem is then if you go update it and you change the date, you actually change the URL. Or it shows a date up that's incorrect. So I would just sort of remove that possibly being an issue and just put your post name. I made a bad mistake with my travel blog actually. I put my category in my URL. So I just thought it was a good way to add extra keywords. But now I want to add multiple categories to a post, and then it means there's multiple URLs to the post. I mean, all that can sound complicated if you're starting out, but basically it's just best to keep things simple. Just use the post name would be my recommendation. So change that. And that's really all you need to worry about right at this moment. So I'm going to save that for my own site, and I suggest you go and do the same.